Okay, so you probably clicked on this video because it's all doom and gloom, and I just want to be transparent from the get-go. I'm not here to cause any fear or convince you any which way to move to Florida. Don't move to Florida. I'm going to be just relating this back to what I've seen and what my clients have seen, so you'll have a good understanding and you'll know all of the facts before moving to Vero Beach or just Florida in general. Because most of these things, while I do cover Vero Beach, this is going to be mostly all of Florida. So you'll have a good understanding of what's going on. But just to dive into the first one, it'll be a short list. And again, you'll have a good idea, and I'll tie it all back in. I'm going to tell you some ways to avoid some of these things too, so you have a good understanding of Florida in general. But just jumping into the first one, we're going to talk about insurance. And insurance companies are leaving like hotcakes. It just makes more sense for them to leave the state than deal with all the battles of all of the claims that they're having and all of the different issues that comes with insuring in Florida, and not to mention the lawsuits. So 79% of all the insurance claim lawsuits that happen out of the whole US, 79% comes from Florida, when only roughly 9% of those claims actually are from Florida. So they're dealing with way more as far as getting insured and then having people come back and bite them. And I agree. You'll have different fraud companies or just fraudulent people asking to sign over the benefits. They'll knock on your door. For example, I believe it was '04 or '08. They had people knocking on the door, assign over your insurance, and then they would attack the insurance company. And the insurance company, you have millions and millions of people doing that. Right after a hurricane, you can't keep up. They don't have enough adjusters and all that stuff. So it definitely makes it harder for everyone else in the insurance company. So just to get insurance, and then you have those frauds, everything just kind of keeps stacking up. Not to mention, let's say you do have a hurricane. I believe Hurricane Ian, the last statistic that I looked at was $109 billion was the effective damage. So, you stack all that up, it's just easy for the insurance companies to pull out. Now, definitely come here, definitely shop quotes, look in the area, check flood zones. We're all going to be required to get a flood insurance at some point in time. But you probably knew that insurance was going to be an issue if you've done any type of research about relocating to Florida, just probably not to the extent of what's actually happening and how it's affecting everyone. So at least you kind of have that, little cue in your head to do a little bit more digging and get some quotes. The next thing I wanted to talk about is home prices. And we did see, of course, like everyone else, home prices skyrocketed during the pandemic, especially with Florida not shutting down. It created that, everyone wanted to move here. Everyone wanted to experience Florida, live that coastal, just sun on your face, be outdoors, not have to worry about too much what's going on in the world. But it definitely impacted Vero Beach. It impacted Florida altogether. And still, I saw another statistic, which I didn't want to talk about charts and throw up charts, but I'll throw it up on the screen. That's why I'm actually walking outside, so I can kind of tell you guys and not be stuck behind a screen just talking. But in January of 2024, I'm going off the top of my head, I believe it went up 4%, and that's still currently happening. So it's just continuing to go up, making the median price point for a home, and this is all of Florida, around $403,000. So gone are the days of purchasing a home for 250, 300, and it's brand new, close to whether you want to be on the river, whether you want to be in a suburb, whether you want to be in downtown. Those days are no longer here, but that's okay. There's other options that you could always explore. I actually came to South Beach so I can show you some of the homes just in the last 3 years alone, the price difference. So I'm going to jump in the car and we'll talk a little bit more. So now to talk about South Beach, this area that I'm at, I've mentioned it in a couple of my videos. I'm going to throw up an aerial shot of South Beach so you could truly understand how close you are to the ocean. So I want to say roughly maybe 2-3 years ago, you could purchase a home this close to the beach for around 500,000, and 5 to 6. And now I'm not saying they're anything special. They're old school Florida bungalow, concrete block homes, low, but I mean, just the location alone, you try doing something like that in Miami and you are not going to get that for that price. So I want to kind of be real careful about recording people's houses and stuff. I always put myself in their shoes. What would I want someone driving past with their camera recording my house? Probably not, especially not in this neighborhood where they have neighborhood watch and all that stuff. But I just want to give you a background on the area. So 500,000 and you're seeing some of these homes, it might not make sense, but it makes sense if you're from the area. Even people that have relocated from down south to Vero Beach, they usually end up saying like this is how Florida used to be, like down south in like the West Palm Beach, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, that area, back, way back in the day. So Vero Beach still has that small old Florida beach town vibe, which a lot of people tend to love. But now the cheapest thing that you'll see in that South Beach area, that old Florida bungalow style, is going to be around 1.1 million. And I actually looked at this last night, and this is not my listing, but you'll be able to pull it up if you look in the South Beach area on Zillow. I just want to preface that because sometimes people get a little upset with some of the information that I share, but this is all public information, so you could kind of take a look and see for yourself. 1.1 million, and this is what you're getting in the area. And I can't say that no one's going to pay that for that price, especially for the location. That's the biggest thing when it comes to Florida. The location is everything, and that's just in real estate in general. But I wanted to come here to Vero Isles to give you a little view of the area so you could understand what you were getting about 2 years ago to now. And I know this doesn't help looking back in the past, but it gives you kind of a solid basis for where the area is going in comparison to some of the other places down south. Now, will I say Vero will be the next Miami or anything like that? I highly doubt that at all. They want to keep Vero as small as possible. They want to keep it very tight, close-knit community for as long as they possibly can. It's technically been considered the Hamptons of Florida, so it's just where you go in certain areas. So let's jump out. I'm going to show you a little bit more, and we'll talk for a second, then we'll go on to the next thing. I wanted to pause the video for 1 second. I hope you're finding this information to be useful. If you are, leave a like. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I want to address them in the next video. And if you want to know more about just the whole Treasure Coast in Florida in general, then subscribe to this channel, and I'll be posting more videos. If you're looking to relocate to anywhere in Florida along the Treasure Coast, please feel free to reach out. I'll let my information roll on the screen, but let's just get back to the video. Okay, now this is going to be Vero Isles. So as you can see, you have access to the lagoon right here, and it's straight from your backyard. And I'm not saying that these homes you could purchase for $1 million, but 2 years ago in this community, you could find a home here for around 500 to, I believe, 700,000. Now the cheapest home you're going to see is about $1 million. And I mean, it rightfully so. You could tell from the location in the area that why wouldn't this increase, especially when more people find out about it. I'm not saying you're going to purchase a home like this for $1 million, but I am saying in this community for $1 million you could definitely find something. But that's just Vero Isles. Now if you go inland some, so I like to use McCanch Park as a reference because that was a very nice community that's close to downtown, and it used to be you could purchase a home in there for around 300, 350, maybe do a little bit of work to it, and now you're looking at around 5 to 7. So just depending on the area. Now, can you find a steal? Yes, definitely, you always can. You just have to be able to put a little bit of your sweat equity in there. Now, I don't want to be all doom and gloom, so if that price point is not in your budget, then don't worry about that. You could definitely find a nice home in Vero and Sebastian, even just throughout the whole state of Florida. But I was just giving this local area kind of its credit. So it was super close to the beach. You could purchase a home for that price, and you were in there, and you could smell the beach from your front door. That's not always the case. I mean, granted, anywhere you live in Vero Beach, you're going to be around 10-15 minutes max to the beach. So is it really that big of a deal? But just for reference. So it's not all doom and gloom. You could definitely still find a nice home in Sebastian and Vero. It might not be as up to date as you want it or brand new, but that's the case just as it stands right now. Now things could always change, but just look over the 10-year, 15-year trajectory of real estate. You purchase now, bound to go up, and people back in the day were purchasing at an 8-9% interest rate. So in the grand scheme of things, people were living for your house. So just kind of take that into effect. Again, this video is not for me to push you to move or not to move. It's just kind of giving you the facts. Another thing people talk about when moving to Vero Beach is the state income tax. There's no state income tax. That's always like, okay, well, you're going to make up for it. No state income tax. That's awesome. Now, I will say that's great, but there's other states that don't have a state income tax and are just as great. So that's not always the best thing to kind of go with. And another thing people say is the property taxes. Property taxes, you homestead your property, you could get that $50,000 exemption and you're good to go. It won't increase more than 3%. That's not always the case either. Your local government can change the millage rate, and if the millage rate increases, that's going to affect your property taxes. So for example, Vero Beach was pushing to move the millage rate up 13%, and I actually pulled the numbers, so I'm not just babbling random numbers to you guys. The new millage rate would make it 2.768, which is a 13% increase from last year. This rate generates ad valorem tax revenue that is 1.566 million higher than last year's tax. So the new rate would equate to just over $1,100 for a house assessed at $400,000. So you could see how your property taxes would take into effect if your millage rate increases. So those are things that some people just don't mention, and I, to be honest, didn't think about it either, and I got caught in that situation. So just know that, just kind of account for that. You don't want to be house rich, but again, I'm not pushing you to move here or not to move here. Just kind of take these things into consideration. So now that you know about the home prices and property taxes, all of that good stuff, we've kind of touched on, and maybe you've already known some of that stuff too. And I'm going to go over I'm going to show you the area, so you'll see random screenshots of just Vero Isles, Vero Beach, all that stuff. But I wanted to talk about another thing that is definitely going to be a thing when you move to Vero Beach, but that's going to be hurricanes. Now, you've probably thought that I wasn't going to tell you all the stuff you've already known when moving to Florida, but one thing I do want to say is that they were in the talks of making a whole new category for hurricanes in Florida. So there would be a category 6, and that means that the winds that exceed 192 miles an hour, I don't think it's for certain yet. I'll double check, and I'll throw it up on the screen, whatever articles I can find. But that's another thing when moving to Florida. Not to mention that there have been, I believe, 8 tornadoes in the past 2 weeks that have hit South Florida. Now none of that has touched Vero Beach and Sebastian. So just look at the area that you're moving to, and you can pull up those statistics as well, just to give you that peace of mind. But those are definitely all contributing factors to living in Florida just alone. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to tackle is going to be car insurance, and this is perfect because I'm recording and driving, but I'm practicing safe driving. 10 and 2, you guys are mounted, everything's safe and good to go. But Florida does have the 3rd highest car insurance rate of the whole United States, and insurance is just an issue here in Florida altogether. Now, U.S. auto insurance rates surged in the whole U.S. 24%, making the full premium, I believe, $2,019. You compare that to the state of Florida, you're looking at full coverage is around $2,900. So that's almost $1,000 difference, making your payments, I believe, around $243, something along those lines. I'll throw the exact numbers on the screen. Again, I'm driving, so I'm not the issue with the car insurance quotes or car insurance policies. Now, I can confirm that. I've lived in different states. I've shopped insurance quotes. I've pretty much done everything as far as Florida goes to try to find a better rate, and it is more expensive, 44% more expensive actually. But if you're moving from, I believe the other 2 states are New York and Nevada, they're more expensive than Florida, so at least you'll get somewhat of a break. I'm not saying it's going to be huge, but before you make the move to Florida, Vero Beach area, and I'll leave my information on the screen, my team would love to help get you here as smooth as possible. Before you move, just come down here, visit, make sure the area makes sense, go shopping, go to the grocery store, check out quotes, kind of get a feel for the environment of wherever you're looking to move, and you can make the most informed decision. I'm not here to sway your opinion in any which way, but at least you have a pretty good understanding of the area. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is going to be the growth of Florida and the growth of Vero Beach in general. So as soon as we get to our location, I'll tell you how all of that's really affecting Florida and Vero Beach. Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to talk about is going to be the growth of not just Vero Beach, but Florida as a whole. So we know that everyone is relocating here. It's actually the second fastest growing state. I believe South Carolina's first, which, that's always another option to explore. But um, some of the stuff that we already touched on is going to be some of the reasons that people actually end up leaving. So, for example, you have housing affordability. It's not as affordable as most people would think or as it used to be. You have the infrastructure. So, with the infrastructure, everything is going to change as far as the taxes. You have the social disruption, I should say. So, with people relocating from every different state, every different place, you are going to have some bad apples in the group. So with that rise in population comes usually a rise in crime. So for example, you already see that here. You have the Vero Beach High School putting up a metal detector to try to deter guns being brought to school. And that's going to be a thing. They also want to protect the environment as much as possible. I know that's a huge thing when it comes to Indian River County and just protecting the Indian River Lagoon and all of the wildlife associated with them. So with all that being said, you also have the stress on public service. So all of the public officials, the public roadways, the teachers, doctors, nurses, police officers, firefighters. With an increased growth in population, you have to increase that as well. So I did not want to make this video to be completely just fear mongering and telling you don't move here at all. I just wanted to be honest and pretty transparent as far as everything else goes, so if you're making the right decision to Florida. If you want a more upbeat video, then click on the video at the end. And if you're looking to relocate to Florida or Vero Beach, anywhere along the Treasure Coast, please feel free to reach out. Again, me and my team would love to get you here as fast as possible, as smooth as possible, with the least amount of headache. So reach out days, nights, weekends. Leave a comment below if you have any questions. But I will see you guys in the next video.